Am I the asshole for breaking my promise to my stepkids, and abandoning and traumatizing them because I did not want to parent them anymore? I met Will when I was 22. Will was 29, with 2 kids, and had newly been widowed. We had whirlwind courtship where he introduced me to the kids and got me involved in their lives very early. First few days after I met him, Will said really quickly he was sure I was the one. Not only for himself but also for his kids. That we'd have an incredible, happy family life. We got married when I was 23, Will was 30, and his kids were 8 and 6. Our wedding ceremony also included me and the kids making promises to each other, which was Will's idea. Soon Will shoved all the childcare onto me. I wasn't a stay-at-home spouse, I worked full-time and always have. But he always had reasons for me to do the childcare, him being sore from doing a physical job, me being better at it since I babysat kids this age in the past and he never had. Or girl stuff for his daughter. Or cooking or anything. He always had some reason and it ended up always on me. He started playing video games and relaxing from getting home until bed, because he was tired and he was bringing in the money and keeping the roof over everyone's heads, though that wasn't really true. He said he deserved to relax. Then he went out with his friends or brought them back to drink beer and watch loud TV. He developed a major attitude with me, and encouraged same in the kids. They found it funny. He started openly disrespecting me and encouraged them to also. He was the ultimate fun dad and I got put in the role of the mean witch. Sometimes they all ganged up on me and mocked me. But also all expected me to serve them and constantly be jumping up to care for them. By the end of the first year I realized the marriage was a big mistake, but felt guilty leaving because of my promises to the kids. Another year went by and I realized that no matter how I tried, and how I knew they were only kids and I didn't really blame them, I genuinely hated both of the kids. And I could not lie to myself anymore and pretend that I loved them. I did not, and I never would. One day I just walked out, packed up everything of mine and moved out while nobody was at home. I left a note explaining it wasn't working and saying goodbye. That was the end. Cue shitstorm from my ex and a bitter divorce, but we both walked away with what we went into the marriage with, not much for either of us. I had never legally adopted the kids so I had no rights or responsibilities about them and I never reached out to any of them again. Honestly I was overjoyed to be rid of all of them. 15 years have gone by and that seems like a lifetime ago, or another person's life, but I'm still in my 30s. I was recently shocked to get a message from Tamara, Will's daughter, now 25. Tamara said I betrayed and traumatized her for life for abandoning them after my promises to them. She said I had a responsibility to never leave no matter what. I know she remembers the horrible way she treated me though.
I tried to miscarry my baby and hurt her permanently. When I was 15, I got myself pregnant unintentionally. I was a very promiscuous horny teenager and I wasn't exactly safe about it. Sometimes I used condoms, sometimes I didn't. I got really worried when I started experiencing the usual symptoms of morning headaches and nausea and skipped my period, so I took a pregnancy test and what I feared was true, I was pregnant. I had no idea how to react to this. For one, I was utterly terrified and I wanted to get rid of it. In a way it felt parasitic, the thing inside me with the power to fuck my life up. I have very Christian parents who would have disowned me for having an abortion, but I knew they would actually love to raise this kid. However, I hated the idea. I had problems with eating at the time and didn't want to gain the pregnancy weight and I just didn't want a child. I guess I'm making excuses, even now. I started a smoking habit very promptly, since I'd heard in science lessons that one of the effects of smoking can be miscarriage. I barely ate at all, and if I did I threw it up, all in the hopes of starving it as if I was trying to get rid of a fever. It didn't work. I gave birth to her far too early and as a result she is blind. I gave her away and haven't heard from her since. She's 8 by now.
Am I the asshole for refusing to let someone order an item off of the menu? I'm a waitress, and I have a semi-regular family that comes in every once in a while. Every time they come in, they order their youngest child macaroni and cheese. First time I served them, the child threw up all over the booth. I didn't think much of it, just that he was sick or had an upset stomach. The next time was the same thing, mac and cheese, then puke. This is an every time occurrence. The kid orders mac and cheese, then throws up. The kid never gets to the bathroom, and most of the time he doesn't even make an attempt to leave the table. I believe once he started walking to the bathroom, but that's it. The most recent time they came in, the child went to order mac and cheese again, and I asked the mom, he gets sick every time. The mom said, oh yeah, Kraft mac and cheese makes him sick, but he wants it. I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, but I don't think your child should order this, if you know he's gonna puke from eating it. And quite frankly, I really don't want to have to clean up vomit tonight. The mom threw a bit of a fit, and the manager had to come over and was agreeing with me. Was I in the wrong for not wanting / allowing him to order the mac and cheese that makes him sick?
Am I the asshole for being frustrated that my girlfriend doesn't work hard at her job and gets paid nearly twice as much as I do? My girlfriend and I both work in tech. When we both worked in different offices, I didn't know much about her day-to-day life at work. I knew she made a lot more than me, $120,000 compared to my $66,000. But since we've been working from home, I've seen a lot of her daily schedule, and hers versus mine are very different. She gets up around 9:15 to drag herself into the home office for her 9:30 to 10 o'clock meeting. After the meeting, she goes and showers, has breakfast, and from about 10 to 10:45, answering just a few Slack messages and emails on her phone, but mostly just listening to podcasts and eating and doing her morning routine. She'll work till noon and takes a lunch break from noon till 1. Then she works from 1 to 4, often having meetings or working on her own stuff. And at 4, we'll spend an hour or so doing household chores and stuff. I, on the other hand, basically work nonstop from 8:30 to 5, or maybe even 6, working 8.5 hours, 9.5 hours a day. And a few weeks ago, I kind of got frustrated with her for basically hardly doing anything for her job. She got frustrated with me and said that they hired her for her knowledge, and it wasn't my place to say what her time was worth. And that if her boss and CEO saw the work she produced, that it wasn't my place to undervalue her because I was being jealous. I said that she was being a little privileged. Not a lot of people can just choose to make 6 figures and wander off from work for practically half the day.
Am I the asshole for making my daughter sleep outside in a tent after catching her cussing out a homeless man on the street? I am a 34-year-old female and a single mother of 2 girls. Jasmine, a 16-year-old female, and Jessica, a 14-year-old female. Their dad died when I was pregnant with Jess, and I had to work hard. We hit rock bottom, and I was barely making it paycheck to paycheck, but I managed to get a degree, become successful, and we live well. Point is, I know how effing hard it is to be at the bottom of society, and my daughter knows this, which is why I was livid at my daughter's actions. Fast forward, now to the story. Yesterday, Jasmine showed me a video of Jessica cussing out a homeless man and telling him, "Stop asking me for money, you'd earn it yourself if you weren't so fucking lazy and spending what you earned on substances." When the homeless man complained about the cold, we live in Northeast England, Jessica responded, "Yeah, people camp for fun, even in December. You can't complain, you're living someone's holiday." Fury was an understatement for what I felt, as I thought I had raised an empathetic daughter. Along with finding the homeless man and making her apologize and making her pay for a hotel for a night for him, as well as signing her up to volunteer at a food bank, I decided to take her up on her offer of sleeping outside. I locked her bedroom door so she couldn't go in, put a sign on it saying closed for the holidays, pitched a tent in the garden and filled it with blankets and the sleeping bag I used when I was camping in Norway. I slept in the room closer to the garden for the night so I was nearby if anything was to go wrong. She was reluctant to do it, but chose it over the option of not having access to her phone until the Christmas holidays are over. In the morning, she was crying about how horrible it was to wake up on a cold mat and get disrupted sleep due to birds. After comforting her, I asked her would she like to do that every day like the homeless man. It struck a chord with her and she was crying over her actions, while even after paying for the hotel room, she was rolling her eyes and even her apology was not sincere. This afternoon, I came home from work to make Jessica a big meal to donate to the homeless people who live on the road near our house. I was proud of how she turned over a new leaf, and after taking the food to the people, my sister came over. Apparently, my nephew and Jessica were talking at school, and he asked her about the plans for the afternoon, and she said she was going to cook for the homeless. My nephew asked what triggered that, and Jess told him everything, which he relayed back to his mother. My sister said that my punishment was way too harsh, and just that paying for the room and the food bank would have done the trick, and I was acting irrationally due to my past. Now I'm second guessing myself. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for taking back my wedding dress after my sister-in-law took back my invitation? My sister-in-law and I are like sisters. Same age, same interests, hobbies, same style and fashion, etc. Her family are vicious people. They always comment on me and my wife and act as if we're less than. We ignore them and only see them on big occasions. My sister-in-law liked my wedding dress a lot and asked me to wear it for her wedding. I said of course and was thrilled it meant that much to her. I sent the dress and received the invitation. I noticed my wife's name wasn't on the invitation. I called my sister-in-law to ask, and she told me that they were giving her help for inviting me and my wife because they don't like us for obvious reasons, and they agreed. She apologized profoundly, saying that she hoped I'd understand because her parents are paying for the wedding. She said they even messed with the entire guest list, so I shouldn't take it personal. I said I won't come unless my wife comes. She got upset and told me to let it go, but I refused, and she ended up taking back the invitation, saying she was sorry, she just didn't want the drama. I said no hard feelings and asked my brother to send back the dress. My sister-in-law came over crying, begging me to let her have it since she's not the one with the budget and her parents told her to pay for her own wedding dress, but she has no money. My parents told me to let her have it and reminded me of how strong our bond is. It clearly wasn't that strong.
Story time about how I exposed my abusive, toxic boyfriend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My boyfriend is and has always been very charming. He has a ton of friends and everyone loves him. He's a very good looking guy and girls are always chasing him. I met him 2 years ago at a party. I had heard a bunch of stuff about him. I heard that he was a player and that he cheated on all of his girlfriends. So when he came up to me at the party, I was really cold. I basically told him I didn't want to talk to him and that I would never give him my number. And unfortunately, this made him try even harder. He could never take no for an answer. He spent an hour trying to convince me to go to have breakfast with him the next day. He was so charming and so good looking. Of course, I eventually said yes. Even a few of his guy friends at the party told me not to go. But of course, I ended up going with him to breakfast the next day. We hung out a few times and then he told me that he liked that I wasn't easy. He told me that I was different from other girls and he asked me to be his girlfriend. I said yes because I was starting to catch feelings. One night we went out with his friends and he started calling me stupid in front of them. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I exposed my abusive, toxic boyfriend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So we went out with his friends one night and he started calling me stupid in front of them. He had never done this before and I was really surprised. I thought maybe he was just doing it to impress his guy friends. That's when I asked him straight up in front of his friends why he kept calling me stupid. One of his friends steps up and says, yeah, why do you keep calling her stupid? He stayed quiet for a second and didn't know what to say. Then he just laughed it off and said, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was doing that. That's when his friends started asking me questions about myself. I told them I was studying to be an engineer and that I had graduated with top honors. Well, let's just say they were all super impressed. We finally got into his car and he was driving me home. I was upset at him, so I decided not to give him a kiss goodnight. I started getting out of the car and he grabbed my wrist really hard. He pulled me back into the car and forcefully kissed me. He said that I embarrassed him in front of his friends, but that he'd give me a pass for it. I was actually in shock. A few weeks later, we were at the mall and he pulled my hair because he said I was looking at some guy. I tried to get up and leave and he wouldn't let me. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how I exposed my abusive, toxic boyfriend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So at the mall, he pulled my hair back because he thought I was looking at a guy. Then I tried to get up from the table, but he wouldn't let me. That's when he said he was going to have to control me more from now on, because clearly I was trying to look for other guys. Then he dropped me off at my dorm room and insisted on coming up. I told him I didn't want him to and that we should reconsider the relationship. I told him he needed to cool off and reconsider how he treated me. That's when he started to cry instantly. He started apologizing and told me that I was right. Then he told me that he loved me. We hadn't used that word before. I didn't realize at the time that he was totally manipulating me. And unfortunately, I decided to give him another chance. A few days later, he asked me why I didn't tell him I loved him back. I told him I just wasn't sure. Then he started yelling at me, telling me that there were so many girls ready for him to be single, and that he had a girl text him every single night, but he would say no just because of me. So I told him I loved him. After that, he was a lot nicer, until one night he slapped me. Part 4 is up. Part 4 of how I exposed my abusive, toxic boyfriend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I sent it me on Instagram. One night he took me out to dinner and started asking me all these weird questions. He wanted to know about my last ex and why we broke up, and when I didn't give him enough information, he got really angry. When we got in his car, he slapped me and told me that I was a liar. After that, he just got worse. He would randomly just push me up against a wall if I annoyed him. He would constantly take my cell phone and start checking it. He even made me give him the password to my email. I decided that I was going to start recording all the abuse. I started recording all of our conversations and even set up a camera in my room. And of course, I had all this proof. One day I finally told him I didn't want to be with him anymore and he threatened me. I also told him that I was going to go to the police. Then he told me I would never be able to leave him and that no one would believe me because he never left bruises. That's when he started stalking me. He would also show up in my apartment and try to force his way in. He would grab me and try to kiss me and I would just push him away. So I finally went to the police. And I also went to the head of the school. I finally got a restraining order and the school expelled him. If you've experienced any of this, please get out of your relationship. Don't make my mistake. Story time about how my crazy ex-girlfriend is trying to control my life, take over my Instagram, and keeps DMing girls on Instagram to block me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So most of you know that this girl DM'd me and asked me to block her boyfriend. Well, I contacted her boyfriend, told her about it, and he told me his story time about her. I met my crazy ex last year. We actually started talking at a party. We live in the same city and have the same friends, so I knew about her. After the night I met her at the party, I decided to ask her out. I mean, she looked like a normal, sweet girl, but little did I know that she was gonna make my life miserable. So we started following each other on Instagram and exchanged phone numbers. We went to the beach and had a really nice first date. Again, super sweet girl. We went out on 3 more dates before I asked her to be my girlfriend. On the 4th date, she came over to my family's house and we had lunch. Of course, she made the best impression on my entire family. I mean, she kind of seemed like too good to be true, you know? She was super cool, easy to talk to, and really funny. The only person out of my family that did not like her was my sister. My sister told me that she got the impression she was only acting the way she thought I wanted her to act. I told her she was being paranoid and to give her a chance. So about 2 weeks into us dating, she started staying over at my apartment. But here's the thing, she basically moved in. She brought over a bag of clothes, her toothbrush, moisturizer and shit, like girly stuff that I just had no idea about. I didn't say anything to her, but in my mind I was like, whoa, this is moving a little too fast. A few days later, one of my friends had his bachelor party. So of course I told her that I was gonna go, and she got really mad. She told me that if she couldn't go to the party, then I shouldn't go at all. I explained to her that this party had been planned for months now. She then grabbed my phone and called my friend whose bachelor party it was, and she basically asked him if she could come. My friend thought it was super weird, but eventually said yes. So my crazy girlfriend got herself invited to the bachelor party. And guess what? It was at a trip club. So she spent the entire time telling me that she was super uncomfortable and didn't let me have fun at all. I barely spent time with my friends and the bachelor because she wanted me to stay with her because she felt so uncomfortable. I asked her if she wanted to go home and she said yes. I told her I'd go get her a cab, but she started to cry and told me that I needed to leave with her too. That's when I put my foot down. I mean, for her to show up to the party was bad enough, but now she's asking me to leave. I told her I was not going to leave with her and that she needed to give me space. She started begging and crying. I couldn't believe my eyes. She had never behaved this way before. I put her into the cab and she went home. Then she ignored me for 4 days and I had to beg her to talk to me. I told my sister what was going on and my sister got really angry. She said it wasn't normal for her to be behaving that way so early into the relationship and that I shouldn't be begging her. So I stopped. A few days later, she shows up to my apartment angry because I stopped chasing her. She told me that clearly I didn't love her. Mind you, we hadn't told each other we loved each other. When I told her I didn't love her back, she started yelling and running up and down the hallway in my apartment building. I told her to calm down and one of my neighbors came outside and asked if she was okay. She ran into my apartment and pretended like nothing had happened. This is where it gets crazy. Part 2 is up.